Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Catch Up Book Club, the third era. Who else just finished this book this weekend? Who else finished it this morning?
Well, I didn't finish it this morning. Afternoon.
Wow. Actually, like 2 hours ago, 2 minutes ago for Aaron.
Yeah. How many hours
It's
has it
just
been for you,
standard
Cody?
for me. Like, when will I learn?
Never. We've been up
You
this
were cutting it very, very fine. I was concerned when you texted me at 5 o'clock and said I'm halfway through the book.
Yeah. I had to go into sport mode.
I tried to pace it because I listened to it on audiobook again. So I tried like pacing it to be like, all right, I'll have enough time to finish it right before the live show. And I finished it like a week and a half ago. So it's not as fresh as I was hoping it would be.
Look at you coming prepared.
Yeah.
I honestly tried. I was supposed to finish it on Thursday and then I just didn't.
Yeah.
Bethany read the entire book yesterday.
Impressive.
Yeah. I read it yesterday and today. I was like, 2 days is like, all right.
It's standard.
Well, I'm not alone in my last minuteness. You know, I love that for me. Thank you.
So, oh wow, we've got a lot of people here. We love the beginning of the read along. It's halfway through that we start to struggle. So we will start as usual with non-spoilers, and I guess we'll go through and talk about everyone's kind of basic thoughts and ratings, starting with my girl Ashley.
Hello. So
introduce yourselves as well, I guess, because like new era.
Hello. So I am Ashley from A Frolic Through Fiction, and some of you may have been in my sprints earlier, but I was quite literally reading this book and giving my thoughts. So I ended up rating it 4 stars. I was very intrigued to see what my thoughts would be because grimdark for me is very hit or miss because I don't like violence just for the sake of violence, but I actually found myself laughing a lot at this and I feel like I have a really morbid humor because of it. So I ended up enjoying this a lot more than I thought. I think because it is largely character based and that's like I'm always a character over plot person, so it worked very well for me.
All right.
Hi friends, my name is Erin. My channel is Booked and Busy. I finished this book 6 minutes ago, so my thoughts are a little rusty, but I'm gonna do my best. I gave it 2 stars, or I'm giving it 2 stars, which if you have met me before, that's not a surprising rating. I think it was very much a setup book to put the pieces in place for the story that he wants to tell, and this was just getting us there. And I think it has a lot of potential. I own all 10 books, so I will be continuing regardless.
This is why you have 700 books that you haven't read.
Becca, did you have to say that?
I'm sorry, I thought everybody
She
knew.
really, really put you on blast with that.
That's what I woke up to this morning.
I chose violence against myself last night.
Cody?
Yeah, so I'm Cody from Cody's Book Corner, OG Catch-Up Book Clubber. Hey. And,
oh, wow, yeah. It's just you. Oh, there's Zaf as well, who is not here.
Yeah, we're dwindling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I only finished it at 4 p.m, so a little bit fresh, so I'm not fully sure if it's a 3.5 or a 4 star, because it is just a whole book of setup. But like Ashley, I did laugh quite a lot at the violent scenes. And I love me some strong characters, and these are definitely people I want to continue to follow. So those are my thoughts so far.
Cass?
Yes, hello. I am Cass from What Cass Read, and this is the only book in the whole series that I've already read before. So this book itself was a reread for me. I read it on audiobook, which love the audiobook. If you haven't even attempted the audiobook yet, you should, because Glocta's voice is amazing. And I'm just I'm just a mush for a character driven, just like Ashley said, super into characters. So this was a 5 out of 5 star for me. And I think the delivery of the audiobook also helped with it, because if I had been reading this, I was thinking about that. If I had been reading this just like by itself, I don't think I would have rated it that high, but I think the audiobook like propelled it up there.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm Becca from Becca and the Books. You're on my channel. Hello.
Wow, really?
Yeah, you are. I know it's been a while. I'm not live here much anymore, so you're probably shocked to see me, but that's where we are. Yeah, I gave it 4 stars, and of course, now that I'm telling my thoughts, Curtis has just come home with Brie, so you're gonna have that noise as they come through. But yeah, I gave it 4 stars. I really, really enjoyed it. Kind of like what everybody else said. It's just it doesn't have much plot. You can tell that there is a plot, and there will be a plot eventually. It's just not really in this book. I did enjoy trying to fit everyone together and like figure out where they were going. And how, because I really thought going into this book, I thought that the 3 characters on the back were like a band of unlikely heroes that were traveling together. So I was just shocked, and like where they were all in different parts of the world, and like Glockter, and is it Jezel? Is that how the audiobook pronounces it?
Giselle.
Right, okay. Like they cross paths, but they don't really have anything to do with each other. So I really did not know where this book was going. I did laugh a lot at it. I knew that it was humorous going into it, but I was worried about that because I don't love humor. But no, I did really, really find it funny. And I gave it 4 stars, had a good time. It was just missing plot, which I know is to come.
Mm-hmm.
Who was everyone's favorite character? Because I know we have a lot of Glockter stands out there, but I'm a Logan girly.
I think Logan. Yeah, there's something Dalinar-esque about him.
That's a claim.
See, for me, Giselle, he was Adolin. So I'm like, I don't like you now, but I feel like I'll like you eventually.
Probably.
Except that Adolin could have won that by himself. Not to go into that section.
I don't know who my favorite is yet.
Oh, I am a fan. I do. Well, oh god, that jumped really quickly. Here we go. I do really like Ardy, and Ardy is giving me Nettle and Molly vibes, but not annoying Molly.
Not annoying as Molly.
So more Nettle than Molly, I guess.
There's a specific scene that we can talk about in the spoilers. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about if you know about Ardy's character. Oh, that she's just like the baddest bitch on the planet.
Absolutely.
I don't think I have a favorite yet, but I think I enjoy Galacta's POV the most because I love a good torture scene. You know, I love harming people. That really gets me going. So
I think the thing that's amusing about Glockter is that he is absolute pure judgment and sarcasm internally, and then like he'll just switch into being like, "Yes, sir, I'll do that," and it's just like, "You're all idiots." It's like absolutely raging all the time.
There was a moment towards the end between Glockter and West that got me in the feels.
Yeah.
He's like, "Oh, you did." It's like, of course.
I genuinely thought we'd have like one good guy in there in West. And I was like, oh.
I was very, very disappointed by that as well, because he reminded me, while we're comparing characters to other series, he reminded me a lot of Chaol, who makes some terrible decisions in Throne of Glass, but like character archetype, he was a Chaol character to me, and I was so disappointed. I was so upset.
I was hoping more for Major West, maybe from the second book, because he'll have like a purpose, a little bit more of a purpose than this first book.
I don't like Pharaoh very much right now.
I do.
She doesn't have a personality. She's just like unhinged, bite, stab.
I love her.
I was going to say, my brain is automatically changing her name to Feral, because that's just what her personality is. But I'm just like, you know what? It works.
I think it's the fact that she's resistant without a purpose. Like she's just, because I'm like, come on, let's get on with the plot. Like, what's everyone doing? And she's causing trouble by resisting the plot for no reason. Like she has reasons in terms of like past trauma, but like she's just being difficult for the sake of being difficult. I'm like, come on, please.
She redeemed herself, though. She redeemed herself. I think.
Did we? I have to refer to my reading journal. Hold on one sec. I wrote some notes, but it was a while ago. What's the mage's name again? Gosh, why can't I think? Baez. Yeah. What did we think about him?
I loved him. I think he's not a main perspective character, but he's my favorite character that doesn't have a main perspective.
You can't help but love. I also really liked the
scenes that have the navigator and Logan in.
Yeah.
You
These
do?
are some of my favorite moments.
Anybody who was watching my sprints earlier can attest to how much I was cackling when Brother Longfoot was introduced, because I was just like, it's just Brother Longfoot going around being like, I'm amazing at everything, and Logan being like,
Yeah.
what are you
He's
doing?
like, don't you think
He's
so?
like,
Logan
Gandalf.
says, and then he just like carries on again. It's like talking to Curtis's mum. Really?
There's someone
Yeah,
who's like
the
Gandalf on
naked scene
drugs.
was so good. I was just
Yeah. The bath scene was great.
it was very much grouchy old man. Like, how dare you interrupt my bath?
Yeah.
Oh god, I do say one character who really had my heart, because I was just like, he's trying so hard, was Malika's cry.
Oh yeah.
He's just a derpy guy.
Yeah.
A little cinnamon roll who's really trying and just can't keep up.
Mhm. I'm also really intrigued by like the Dog Man and Three Trees and
I love
Grim.
those scenes.
I'm excited for more of
I
those.
Their
those
vibe
scenes.
was what I wanted Kings of the Wild to be, but it wasn't.
Oh,
Yeah, I get that.
I mean, I still loved Kings of the Wild, but I think I'm in the minority.
No, I loved it too.
You loved it too? Okay.
Yeah.
I like one of the things that I like that it doesn't seem like in their perspective is like, other than Jazal, everyone that we're following is a legend. Like everyone that we're following, their name has come way before them, long before we've ever met them, because all of them to a degree are aware of one another and who they are.
Mm.
I just love the fact that no one believes Bayaz is who he is all the way through. And he's so offended by it.
Are we ready for chaos? If she connects, it might be frozen.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey. I should have said she's having technical difficulties. That was a beautiful screenshot, though. We love that. Hello?
She said she can't hear anything.
Oh, no.
Oh. I think that's a Zaf problem. She's very concerned about it. The weakest.
Oh.
Oh, that scene. Oh, I think because the Northmen are like literally every single fantasy trope that I love. And we just don't get that many scenes with them. I hope we get more scenes with them in like future books.
Mm-hmm.
I could read I think we do get whole books of some of those characters. So never mind. I'll be good.
Interesting.
I think so, because I ordered, when I did my book depository order for the good covers, I also ordered the standalones. And I think at least one book is someone from like the Northman group.
Interesting.
It's so interesting hearing this from Cass and Cody, because like from watching the Realm of the Elderling videos, y'all had already read everything, so you were like not saying anything and being like, I wonder what's gonna happen next. Well, I don't know. Thoughts?
Yeah, this is my first time reading for Catch Up Book Club, something I've not read before. So I of all my theories, I'm excited.
How are we doing, Zafi? Have you recovered from your technical difficulties?
Yes, I'm doing this actually from my work laptop, so I really hope none of my colleagues are watching. But yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Clearly? Am I good HD audio quality right now?
You're decent audio quality. You are frozen again, though. She did have quality, and then it disappeared. There we go.
We have some quality. I'm just going to stop talking for now.
How about you introduce yourself and your channel and tell us your basic non-spoilery thoughts?
I love the pause in the middle of the hair flip.
I was just gonna say that.
I'm so sorry if this is lagging. My internet's a bit shit in the living room, but I'm trying my best. Hi, I'm from the Psychonic, natural name. I'm currently on a bit of a hiatus, but I've actually been reading a lot this month, these past few months. So I'm actually coming back to make videos soon. But yeah, fantasy is my favorite genre. I haven't actually read this series for the first time either, but had quite a few shocking moments. I actually prefer this significantly more to Hobbes. So
damn,
I'm really intrigued about the direction this is going. Okay, I know that's shocking, but in the night
I support that.
Wow.
In
Okay.
the sense that, like, it felt like things happened in these books. Like, in this one book, it felt like so much happened, and it feels like it would take Hobbit trilogy to do that. And it's like, I'm not trying to discount the slower pacing, but this is definitely more my speed.
Interesting.
Please
What
don't
was
put-
your rating?
Currently, I'm gonna say 4 out of 5 stars, just because I don't feel like we had a proper climax. So I'm kind of seeing how if this trilogy is gonna kind of be like the Lord of the Rings in the sense that like the first book is a lot of build up, etc., etc. Sorry, I didn't mean to be controversial. But I will say, one thing I dislike the most about this is it just felt so, and I'm not trying to sound like I'm a misandrist or anything, but like there were just so many men. It was just like men, and then only like 2 chicks. And I'm not trying to say that, oh, you need to have like a complete blend to have a good story, but it was just like the 2 women characters that we actually did get were freaking amazing, but it just felt, I don't know, maybe it's just like the times we live in now. You can definitely feel that this is like from the past, if that makes sense, in the sense that it doesn't feel like there's enough female agency. It's coming from the same time period where fantasy is always like men and knights and this and that and the other. And he's definitely subverting a lot of tropes, but I don't know. You can feel it's a bit aged.
There's no like Yasna Colin vibes.
Yeah. So, yeah, you know what, we'll talk about our feelings towards characters a bit later, but I definitely have some thoughts.
Interesting.
It's
That
actually
is
close
true.
to 2 decades now because this came out in 2006, which means that it was written in like 2004.
Ouch.
The boys had a lot to learn.
See, this is interesting because from the perspective of catch-up book club series, this felt very modern to me because it like starts 10 years after the other series that we've done is published 10 years later. So anyway, we'll move on to spoilers around about now. So if you haven't quite finished, then we will see you can, this will go into a playlist of all of the live shows and it will get added to constantly. So if you guys fall behind at any point, you can easily catch up, but we are about to go into spoilers. This is your final warning. I'll give you a few seconds to vacate.
As a kind of like bridge thing while people leave if they're not in spoiler territory, would I this is one of those where I'm just like, this is either really obvious or a reach and I can't tell which it is. Would you think that the world is vaguely based off the UK? Because
Absolutely.
I was just like, we have England, we have like the Savage Northmen, and it was just like the Scottish England thing. So I was just like, this is either really obvious or just something I'm reading into. I can't tell.
Well, Joe Abercrombie's from
map, but if you like the short story collection is like the first one that actually has a map. If you look at that map,
Oh, okay. That's what I was looking at because I was just like, there's no map in this, which surprises me. And I was like, this has got to be okay, right?
Literally, I wanted to make a complaint because immediately I was like, where the fuck is the map? Maybe in these editions they don't have them. I don't know what editions you guys have.
No,
but I was
He
like,
doesn't. In
Yeah, there
Discord, they said that he doesn't believe in one, so the only map is the cover of the short story collection has the map in the background. That's the only map, I think.
I can't even. It's
Which-
frustrating.
Considering that he made a point to be the circle of the world and like very much is deliberate about where things are located, it's odd that there's no map. And like it was fine at first when it was just like the Union versus the North, but then when we started getting more talking about the South, I was like, no, we need a map because this is a lot.
But I mean, I'm feeling like it's very like Game of Thronesy, where we've got, you know, we do have like the southern nations, but I'm also getting the vibe that there might be something like across the sea as well. So like my mental map is like kind of a Westeros style map.
Yeah, same. Especially with the class system as well, with the Southerners being the more advanced, you know?
It was especially when they were to people who were from the South and they were just like, oh, where I'm from goes beyond the map. And I'm like, what map? Where is the map?
Yeah, it was very frustrating because normally I don't even refer to a map, but with this and how deliberate he was about location, I was like, no, I could really do with a map.
Yeah.
Please. Did anyone catch the Lord of the Rings reference? I definitely did not.
I
'Cause
haven't
I'm not a
read Lord of
fan.
the Rings or watched the movies to catch a reference.
No, what was the reference?
Well, yeah, I mean, the influence, like they're all influenced by it. I mean, I'm gonna Google it right now.
There was a couple a fantasy author who doesn't believe in Mark's What an Animal. A lot of people have said that it felt a bit Game of Thronesy, and I will agree to that. In fact, when I was, because I've made a spoiler vlog for this that I haven't edited yet, but when I was doing sprints, I wrote notes on stuff to pick up. There was one on page 213 which very much paralleled the Cersei plotline with the Church of the Seven and the bell, the shame thing.
I did pick up on the Lord of the Rings reference. I just forgot about it right now because I read it and was like, Gandalf, is that you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, was that
Yes, totally. I did catch that in the moment when I was like, yeah, same thing, Ashley, where I was like, seems a little Gandalfy. Yeah, I did catch
I
that.
read that today as well, I think. Or was it late last night? It might have been the last chapter I read last night, in which case I was half asleep. And then there was also the Feared is very much the mountain, which is the guy that goes to the Union on behalf of the Northmen and is the champion, but then they don't take him up on the task.
Yeah.
I feel like that
Um,
makes sense, given that this came out in 2006. Like everything was like, we're trying to find the next Game of Thrones. How can we make this Game of Thronesy?
But also, it's like I think it kind of felt very Norse whenever they were talking about the Northmen and the cold, etc., etc. Gave me the Viking Norse feeling. So, like when we talk about giants, maybe it's because I've been playing Assassin's Creed, Valhalla, and God of War, but it was giving me Jotnar, Jotunheim. I don't know. I was just like in that brain of thinking. Another point I was going to say is that on Reddit, on the First Law Reddit, there's someone called Tall Shepherd Press, and they made a map, and like it's like visualized really, really well. It's super HD. I highly recommend checking it out. But because I kept referring to this every single time they were bringing up places in the book, because I just can do it.
Oh yeah, this whole fencing duel as well was very the Viper versus the Mountain.
Frost.
Yes.
Ghost. One of those.
Bloody night.
Gorst, according to the narrator.
Oh yeah, they just poor baby Logan.
Oh yeah, we are in the spoiler section. Yeah, totally Berserker vibes. Yeah. I was like, wow, somebody just like flat out put that.
But it might seem like he was in a crew of berserkers because Dogman did the same thing. And he was like, oh, he's dead? Like, what happened? And they're like, oh, the knife in your hand that's dripping with blood? That was you. And he's like, oh, all right then.
Yeah, I don't even really know where to start in terms of like a structured discussion. But what are the Shankar? Like, we know now that they were made by the maker, but what are they? Their heads are flat. That's all I can tell you about them. Like, I'm assuming there's some sort of like they're giving Trollocs, and that's only because I've recently read Wheel of Time.
That's how I was picturing it in my head as well. I was thinking Trollocs, but he did say that they were made from like leftover flesh or something, right? Like the maker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what. Yeah.
To also kind of Gollum-y,
but
like materials and leftover flesh.
I didn't get the impression that they were sentient, like truly sentient.
I just think there's no like indication of like there's no description of them. It's like it's doing the Stormlight thing where it's like, we know what this thing is, so we're not going to tell you what it is because we know, so we don't need to describe it, kind of thing, which was frustrating, especially as we found out more information about them. And then there's the Eaters as well, which were created by the Prophet, who I'm assuming is one of the other Magi. At first, I thought that it could be Canedius still alive, but I'm assuming that that's one of the other Magi.
Yeah, the Eaters confused me because I'm like, it was like the ghost thing,
like a Colossus
ghost, and then there's like,
yeah, this works for them.
Mhm.
I guess the whole like flathead thing is because half the people, well, most of the people in the story don't think that they exist, and then there's just Logan who doesn't want to talk about them. So it's just like, well, we've only really got one perspective.
Yeah. I'm assuming we'll get a description when, like, what's his name? Fancy man sees them for the first time.
Giselle.
That's the one.
I think
yeah,
so. I
people
think it's
can
like
real.
all to do back with the first law itself, where it's like that, like you're not supposed to talk to the other side. You're not supposed to commune with the other side. So like what are they? The walkers, the eaters, everybody is like some things wrong with them. Like they go against nature because they're going against the first law, which brings me to my first big theory is that I think maybe that's why Logan does go berserker, because maybe that's a punishment for communing with the spirits. It's like, I think there's something in here, like with all of these like creatures and kind of the plot that's maybe building up to the next book, where since they're like clearly communing with the other side of the veil to get whatever power they have.
That was very interesting because we found out what the first law was very shortly after we saw Logan commune with spirits, and I was very confused because I was like, well, he's literally just broken that.
But then
Like,
also,
straight
Ryan at the end tells us that like everyone breaks it really. Like to do any type of magic is to break the first law.
Was anybody surprised about the amount of magic in this? Because I was told that there wasn't much magic in this world, and I actually had someone in my comments who said that the amount of magic in the first Elderling book is like 10,000 times the amount of magic in this one. So then I was just shook when there was just mages everywhere.
Yeah.
It's just like, but then I realized I don't feel like I read a lot of fantasy that actually has magic in it. So this is actually one of the more magical fantasies that I've read.
I feel like it was a case of every character was linked to it somehow, because we had Pharaoh, who clearly has something going on. Obviously Logan, you've got Bayaz and all the magi and stuff, so it's kind of just like you don't necessarily see them using it all too much, but you're kind of aware.
There's also the woman who was given Melisandre, the King Bethod's sorceress. Then there's also, is he Yulwe? I don't know how the audiobook. Yeah, him. He's one of the magi. There's the prophet. So there's quite a lot.
I feel like when people say magic, they mean magic system, where it's like has rules and it's explained and this and that, versus like I'm a magician, woo, and that's it. You know, it's like, oh, it's not I'm ingesting metals so I can do this. It's just I am a wizard, thus I do magic.
Yeah. I do like that he has like something he like specifies in though. I'm like, is there going to be others that like can do like water, because it's like fire, right? I'm like, want more elemental stuff maybe?
I want to know what's what the plan, like what Bayaz's plan is, but also like what does he need these people for specifically?
Yeah, they've been looking for the seed, I'm assuming. They need the seed or whatever.
Like, oh, we've got a weird breeding going on.
Yeah, I didn't like seed being used so much. It was like,
Also, do we think Canedius is dead? Because when Bayaz recounted the story, wasn't he supposed to be buried under the Maker's house? But when Bayaz went and told everyone what happened, he said that he fell. He didn't say anything else about him.
Yeah.
He said he fell and hit the bridge.
There's every single chance I believe he's still alive.
The first rule of fantasy, if you didn't see the body, they're not dead.
I feel like he knows it as well, because he was far too chill about just casually letting them into the house of Maker. I was like, you locked that thing for a reason. It's like, why are you all just stuck little tour?
And what did they take out of it? It was just a box, wasn't it?
To put the seed in, I guess.
I think there's something in the box that they need for this mission.
And there was that weird weapon as well, which I'm assuming will come back at some point. Otherwise, why put it in the book?
Potentially.
I'm assuming it's a person. Like they need to cut out its heart and put it in the box or something.
Yeah, that's true.
I literally wrote down at one point why does he want Pharaoh so bad? And then there was this whole thing about like mingling their powers together, and then he was talking about the seed. I was like, oh,
Well, she can't see color. So there's obviously something going on with her.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he was clearly in love with the daughter.
Oh
But
yeah.
we don't know anything about her apart from that she was killed. So like, what's her deal?
Because to me,
I get this, but I don't automatically distrust him. It's clear that he has an agenda, but his agenda might be fine. He just might not be disclosing it. Because the thing is, as well, a lot of his perspective we see through Logan, who explicitly said, "I don't care what we're doing, and I don't want to know, because when I know bad things happen, so I'm just going to go along with it." So he's not necessarily being dishonest.
The way he's literally just bounding around being like, I don't know what's going on, but I'm here.
Well, no, because the spirits told him to go with the guy who came for him. So he's just following what the spirits told him from the first part. I'd get behind that.
Where was the question? I did get emotional about this, but not because of that. It was because of West and how he was like, "No, I did come. I didn't leave it." Which got me in the feels a little bit.
I'm not invested enough in anyone to have any emotions about anything. Like, off with all of this.
I didn't necessarily get emotional, but I was just a bit like, this feels not like out of character, but it was definitely a U-turn from him like raging 1 second and then being like, oh, I do have a friend.
But then I'm like, also, like, sure, my mom turned you away a decade ago, but it's been 20 years when you see me in the streets.
Someone's mom told you no twice and you just never talk to them again.
Like some friend you are, and when you talk to me now, it's because you want me to fix your sister who you abused.
I think like the Glocta audiobook Glocta, like there is a lot of rage, but there's also like simmering rage, and there's like seething rage, and there's also like quiet contemplative moments about his condition. And so that particular scene didn't come so far out of character for me listening to him, because there were moments where he wasn't just flying off the handle raging because of the way that the narrator brought him to life. So good. You at least just have to listen to the voice because it's so good.
Yeah, I listened to the audiobook while I read along. I think the chronic pain rep was 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
Chronic pain.
Absolutely. The way that it was consistent as well, like it wasn't just a case of mentioning he had a cane every so often, it was a case of being like, really you go up all these stairs again for fuck's sake.
Yes.
Or it's like, oh, I'm in danger, but I literally can't like protect myself. Or how did this happen? Like just the thought of getting up out of the bed and opening the door, or everything that you're doing, you're like, how is?
Or he woke up and he's like, I shit the bed again. Or like his food, he's like, love me some gruel, love me some slop.
And the way he was taking joy in that practical at the end. Not being in pain. Yeah. And he was like, welcome to my world kind of thing.
I can't imagine.
I think it's interesting as well because the perspective we get of Glocta as well is that he was Jezal when he was younger. So like how his perspective has shifted with his injuries. Yeah, he is around the same age as West. I think he is 35, it said at some point.
I find it quite interesting to actually see the perspective of someone who is bitter from being in pain all the time, because I think that's a thing that's shied away from quite a lot, but it's just quite an interesting one, because like you can't really blame him for just having this simmering rage at all times, because it's not a world that's built for him now. And he did quite literally go from being this person who was like, winning all of the jewels and such to not.
And like probably super fit because of, his conquest on the battlefield and in the fencing ring.
Like saved the day. And this is kind of the treatment that he gets when he gets back. And I feel like I like the contrast of like someone who has been tortured is now a torturer. And so you almost get an insight into what his torture was like. Like the scene when he was like, oh, let me tell you about this dentist. of the
Yes.
And it was just like you can kind of see him almost recreating the things that he went through when he's torturing people.
It is an interesting, I feel like, avenue for him to take in his life. Like, I was tortured, now I will torture.
What else could he do,
Somebody
though?
said-
You know, he's kind of stuck. It's like, what else could he be doing in this world?
I kind of
This was
also like
also
how
a
they used-
difficult between the teeth.
Oh yeah,
Just
ew, that was nasty. I like how they used Audie as like this contrast thing between, like, because they already made that difference between Giselle and Gluckta, but then like in that dream where he had about him winning and then him kissing her, and then that's literally what Giselle ends up doing. That, first of all, it grossed me out because I was like, she literally sees you like a friend. That's yikes. But also, it's like, imagine if he didn't lose all of that stuff. She probably would be attracted to him. He probably would seem very, very attractive and accomplished and stuff like that. And so it's just like, I do feel bad for him in the way that like so much was taken from him. But it's like the character feels very gray, like in a good way. And I feel like, oh, this feels very validated by why he's so gray. But I don't. I guess I just feel really, really bad about how Audie's continually being used as this like how she is seen by the men around her. Gluckta wants her. Giselle likes her, but she's not like high enough rank. And then her brother.
I think
Like-
that this is potentially setting up for all three of the main perspectives to be in love with Audie, because Logan also had a conversation with her and she was the only person who wasn't scared of him.
Is it because she's the only woman? Because I didn't find anything compelling about her. Like,
I actually quite liked her up until she was being really nasty to Giselle, because somebody's just said I feel like she's using him. I also feel like she's using him because she's not actually. He said that he likes her because she's not nice to him, but she's actually like quite not manipulative towards him, but like
Indifferent.
I think it's because she was just drinking
Yeah.
too much.
there is that as well.
Like
she knows
she,
what she's doing. She's very
Well,
aware
yeah.
of what she's doing.
yeah, but the like change in attitude toward him, like the friendship wise, just I think that was maybe she's a mean drunk like her brother
And
like,
her father.
like her father. Yeah.
Potentially.
I'm really
But-
intrigued to see how her and Gluckta are going to be together, because those two are very smart and they can see, I think, beyond a lot of what other characters can. So I'm very excited to see. If
Does
they
she
become-
is she supposed to go with Gluckta on the ship?
Oh yeah, because he's leaving now.
He's
Going
leaving.
to the side.
Might not see him. She's going to be left on her own.
Yeah, but he said he'd look after us, so I'm hoping there's more interactions at some point.
He might take her actually
Oh,
because he needs
Jenna.
practicals. They said
I
that
hate
he needs
Jenna so
people he
much.
can trust.
But can he trust her though? And she has no skills. The practicals are torturing people, buying properties, doing all. She has no skills.
She does remind me of Denna. Yeah, that's
And I
that's
hate
what it is.
Denna. Hate Denna. Oh, she. That's a probably. Pharaoh and Logan. I don't agree with that.
I don't
Oh,
see
shit.
Although the main scene together was that massive action scene at the end, and I'm not an action scene girly, so I did not retain all of the information that happened in that last like chapter. I was just like, I can't.
It
Like,
took
that
me.
whole sequence. I'm like, this is nothing like the rest of the book. It comes
It's
out
a
of
20-page fight scene. It was given the gunfights in Second Year of Mistborn that I hate. I was like,
Yeah,
can we
it was a bit.
stop, please?
Yeah.
It took the second time around of reading it because, like, I realized, like, as I was rereading it, I was like, I literally don't remember how this book ends, and so that whole like ending fight scene was like totally a blur until this time around, where I was like, okay, pay attention because you clearly forgot. So then I was
like
able to
that
pick up
you-
more.
Yeah, I like that she chose to save him. Like, he totally thought this is the end. And when he went berserk as well, living for that. That was great. Loved that.
Very sexy.
I do feel like Logan to me started feeling a bit like a meme because he would constantly end up in a situation and be like, I'm alive! I'm alive!
Yeah.
Right, okay.
That's a recurring thing for him, though, isn't it? Because of how many near-death experiences he has. Every time he survives, he reminds himself that he's alive.
I wonder
But
if
he
all
is
those
just a
near-death
meme in
experiences
general.
are
I
the
think
reason why he can commune with the spirits.
Maybe.
I like that line was parroted as well by Giselle. He was like, well, at least I'm alive.
There was a review that I watched recently. I'm going to have to find his channel name and throw it up in the chat because I just don't remember off the top of my head. But I was watching his review and he was like, his take on the Logan thing was like, there's really, or just a lot of people think there's not anything special about Logan. Like he just ends up being lucky most of the time. And he even says like, oh, I'm alive. I'm still alive. He just gets like a stroke of luck until the very end when we realize, oh, there is something different about the Bloody Nine when the Bloody Nine personality comes out versus Logan. So yeah, Joe Abercrombie like really played that one close to the chest for 99% of the book.
Yeah, like it was a nice surprise. Like you knew there was something, but were you like, is this all being over dramatized though? Is it like Name of the Wind where like, it's not all quite the way it went down, but no.
I do see this. I can get behind this.
I think if you look at Logan's POV, he doesn't see himself as a big deal. But when you think about the couple scenes you got of the Northmen, and they were like, we all got our asses beat by what's in his name, and so we're gonna do it the way he would do it because you couldn't challenge me. I'm number 2, and even when they were fighting, like what would Logan have done? And so if you think about how Logan's reputation outside of himself, it matches up perfectly with the Bloody Nine, all those other things. Everyone else thinks that of him, and he's just like, yeah, I'm just making my way downtown.
Walking fast.
I don't know if it is like how much I see him as a JP meme because he reminds me of the guy from Umbrella Academy, the big space guy.
Oh, really?
What's his name? Luther.
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I think
I would just thought if he's Geralt, then Brother Longfoot is his dandelion.
Oh, cute.
Oh, Yaskia.
There was one line that kept being repeated, which was advice from his father, which came from my throat. It was like, what was it? Doing it is better than the fear of it. And I was like, okay, calm down. It's like a serial procrastinator. Like,
I was just like, I live by that one. Hang on, let me find it because I wrote it down. It was something about taking the little joys. And I was like, am I really relating to a torturer right now?
Yeah. Those some good lines.
You have to love the small things when you've nothing else.
Yeah.
Just wants his tea blossom.
What do we think this Berserker thing is, seeing as it's not just exclusive to Logan? Do we think it's something to do, like something mystical, or is it just because of how many battles they've seen? Is it just like some form of like, I guess, like a coping strategy or like a PTSD type situation?
I think that it has something to do with like him having an other side, because like, so this is where I have a bit of a different interpretation of the whole speaking to spirits thing, because they were talking about how the spirits are eventually going to settle. And so it's kind of like, I think maybe these spirits are actually already existing in the normal world and not on the other side, but like over time, like the natural world is losing its magic. And I think that he maybe has like a link to this magic that's pre-existing. That's what's enabling him to go berserker mode or whatever. But like this stuff about the other side, like they're talking about it as like demonic and everything. And what that makes me think is like, especially with the people who cannibalize. Okay, this is gonna sound weird. In like his first few chapters, I don't know if anyone remembered, but it struck me as very, very odd. He was talking about how he had to leave a bunch of people behind, and then how he was talking about, oh, I might have to end up eating this person or whatever. And I thought, oh, maybe is that a bit of a passing comment? But that's a weird thing to say. And then when he spit that fire spirit at that dude with the metal mask, and he was like, oh, it was making a delicious smell, and he was hating himself for it. And I was like, that's 2 for 2 now. This is a bit, So maybe it's like, especially because they live in the north, right? A part of me is thinking, what if he once engaged in cannibalism? So he has like this side of him, which is like, you know what I mean? I don't know. We've kind of got 2 things that happened early in the novel that kind of give that impression. So I'm a bit.
Yeah, there was also that bit when he said that he'd killed someone and it was like licking the blood off his fingers, and the dog man was disgusted. So maybe
Potentially.
This comment some of y'all I know Ashley's read it recently, but if you read John Gwynn's Shadow of the Gods, it gives me that thing because there's an element why a certain group of people that seem to have no connection all have these same berserker traits, and we later on find out what that is. And I think
is weird because I haven't read any John Gwynn, but I was reading this and I was like, I feel like this is what John Gwynn's like. With like having no knowledge aside from knowing the plot that like, it's like about giants and men, the Malice series, and then I've seen the cover of Shadow of Gods. That's all I know, and I was just like, I feel like this is what John Gwynn's like.
Yes, I got hints of John Gwynn. Yeah,
hints. Yeah,
which you should be reading John Gwynn. I don't know why you aren't.
Because I'm also reading Wheel of Time, and I'm still not finished with the Cosby.
Wheel of Time's not going anywhere.
First Law, and I'm one book into The Witcher.
That's just short stories. That's just
you're gonna
stories.
love John Gwynn because the quality.
I know, but I just like as I've started the Shadow of What Was Lost as well, and I started Chorus of Dragons, and because of like book clubs and stuff, I can't read that much epic fantasy at once. So now I'm just trying not to start them at all because I get one book in and then I have to reread it anyway, and it's a chunky book. So.
That's why I've been so slow with my fantasy this year.
Wait, are you talking about like The Faithful and the Fallen?
Yeah.
I have all 4 books. What am I doing? Okay, thank you.
I'm starting Valor tomorrow. I'm very excited.
If you like Mac one, you're gonna love Valor. It's the old Wolf book.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, speaking of other books, before we get back to this one, Zaf, did you see the cover? Did you hear Chris Prahlini's news?
Okay, listen.
Oh God.
Listen. I'm not buying any more books other than more and more copies of that series because it's my favorite series of all time. And then he's coming out with an illustrated edition.
Yeah,
and
totally.
Marcog, like.
Yeah. I instantly thought of you. I was like, there's no one I know who will appreciate this.
This is my year. I'm breathing. I'm living. And also like the new Witcher covers, like they released the rest of them in that new edition. Sadly, like the rest of the series, apart from the second book, aren't illustrated, but the covers are so pretty and the editions are so nice. So I'm definitely gonna get those all.
I disagree with this comment. The tortured past character is never old. Absolutely not. Somebody said, I wonder if the Eaters are inspired by Wendigo, which I cannot comment on, but I did want to say about the Eater twins are very much anime villains. And I love an anime villain, but they were very much given like Team Rocket.
Outside of like lore, in real life, if you eat human flesh, it's going to mess with your mind. Like that is the thing that happens.
That is a factual thing.
Yeah.
Yes, that is science.
So, and you know this how?
I do love a good cannibal storyline though, because like there's nothing that really quite catches me off guard quite like cannibalism in a story.
Oh, there's cannibals in what's that book that we read, Aaron?
Tender as a Flesh?
No, that's not what we read.
The blood trials when they spit roasted a human and then pull their body apart, and she talks about like the smell of the burning flesh.
Babe, what?
Read it. The sequel comes out.
It was very, very graphic in the eating of.
Okay, what are we talking about? Which one is this?
The Blood Trials by is it S.E. Davenport?
Well,
N.E. Davenport. Yeah.
Where are all these cannibal stories coming from all of a sudden? I mean, obviously this one was released ages ago, but
old as in it's old, not as in like we need to start doing it. Okay, I can agree with that one.
But the quality of life, the type of life that they're living, I feel like just the average person has PTSD. Like just the way life goes in these medieval books is hard. Life is so hard for them.
There's always like fucking whoring and slavery and fucking having to kill random things. So your friend's gonna die. You just have to accept it really quickly. Aaron, are you into necrophilia? Are you into eating human flesh?
Me personally,
no. Wait, what's? Oh wait, no.
Yeah, no. I'm glad that you just realized that.
We've done a bit more of a jump there.
Okay, that's not what I meant.
I like reading about things like that. Those things excite me. Like a good torture scene gets me going. You know, scalping a human and peeling the flesh from their skin from their flesh like an apple. This is 10 out of 10.
Can't relate.
Isn't that what you said to John Gwynn in your interview with him too?
I did.
Yeah.
I love that.
I was like, okay.
Wow. Somebody asked
think
us,
it's
this
like-
was right at the beginning of the chat, so like I didn't pull it up because it wasn't really relevant to what we were talking about at the time, but like somebody asked how this compares to other grimdark that we've read. And my initial reaction is that it's not as grim as I thought it would be, considering that he's supposed to be like the grimdark author. I was expecting like Mark Lawrence levels of grimness, although I am aware that like Prince of Thorns, he overdoes the like it's grim, like it's what the fuck kind of grim. But I was expecting, because of how much of a pedestal Joe Abercrombie's on, that's what I was expecting. So I was surprised, and actually the setting of it. I was expecting Winterfell, but it's more like King's Landing. So like if you think about the difference in tone of those locations, like I was expecting like cold, dark, grim, and it was actually like Giselle prancing around like with doing a fencing contest. Like that's not what I was expecting from this.
Yeah.
So it wasn't as
Game of
grim as
Thrones-
I would expect.
Yeah, I think Game of Thrones was grimmer in the just depictions of the bad shit as well. Like this faded to black when I didn't think it would, you know, in places. Like the torture
I
scenes
think
and stuff.
this might be an unpopular opinion, but I think Joe Abercrombie's positioning as like Lord Grimdark is more self-done than actually represented by his books. Now, sure, that could change later on, but given that his title is literally at Lord Grimdark, I think that may influence the people a little bit.
I think Sebastian de Castell in Trader's Blade went a little bit darker.
The torture in
tone.
that one?
Oh yes.
Yeah.
Oh yes.
The best torture scene I've ever read.
Yes.
That was good.
I can't get over
I
our-
think there's probably more about the grimdark genre technically, as in like recurring themes and stuff that is present in this, as opposed to the typical feeling of like, oh, it's going to be bloody and gory and gritty and gross, which is, I feel like, a lot of what I especially expected going into it. So thematically, it might be more grimdark. But I am not knowledgeable enough about grimdark as a subgenre to say that.
Grimdark. A lot of fantasy, you follow like the hero, the good guys, the people who are going to make the right choice that's best for humanity, not best for themselves. Whereas grimdark is more about there being a lack of hope, a lack of belief, a lack of moral high ground than necessarily gory. But as far as like my reading, this is pretty low at like the bottom of the grim things that I've read.
I love the people in the comments just wait for the rest of the books.
Well, they are going to war, and I think one of the standalones is just one battle told from the perspective of multiple characters.
I
So
think
that's
it's Rickon.
pretty nasty.
Ooh, excited.
That might be the heroes, I think.
Yeah, the heroes is a 3-day battle.
Yeah.
I love a war book.
Dystopian, immoral, and violent. They are all going into war as well, or like war torn. Well, actually, they're going to the edge of the world. Where is that? Which way are they going?
We wouldn't know. There's no bloody map.
Is it the edge of the world or is it the edge of their world?
Yeah, they keep saying the circle of the world, but circles have no edges. So
And
what edge?
also, one of the Magi is from past the edge of the world. Was it
Yeah.
the Magi?
Yulwi, I think.
Yeah. I am dreading that book. I have to say, I'm not looking forward to the heroes because it's just like generally it's a war book just to start off with. So
Is that the last one we're reading this year? No, mid to last, second to last.
Also, I think that what we would consider grim in 2023 is a lot more no holds barred than what would be considered grim in 2005.
that's true.
Like the things we see on the internet every day.
Oh, that's true. But then I think you could draw parallels to Red Rising in this, in that there is a level of flamboyance within this and Red Rising and a level of drama. Like the thing that I love about Red Rising is that it's so dramatic. It's like a Shakespearean play, like with the emotion with which they hack off each other's limbs. Like, it's a flat earth they're going to drop off the edge. Cody's still bitter about that map.
I really am.
I'll see if I can order you one that matches your Realm of the Eldlings one.
Yes, please.
What also kind of doesn't make sense about the lack of map thing is again on this edition, if you like look on the back, you can see like these dark lines, which are actually a fucking map. Like it's showing a map. So where the fuck is the fucking map? How would you engage maps, but there's a map on your book cover?
Yeah, this is literally it. Dismembering is fine. I just have to be dramatic about it.
Mm-hmm.
Like I want you to dismember because they're your jilted ex-lover and they cheated on you with your best friend. And you're really upset about it. Stop.
Mm-hmm.
Aaron, do you have a Grimdark book crack video?
I don't, but I'm working on a Grimdark video right now, and I'm trying to find the darkest of the dark. So stay tuned.
Damn, I'm scared.
I'm expecting
Does anybody know what the first reported official Grimdark book is?
Titus Andronicus by Shakespeare. Titus Andronicus by Shakespeare. That shit was dark as crap. I know it's a play, it's not a book, whatever. But honestly, that was like his darkest play, in my opinion. That was not
I
lucky.
think I only read that once, and it was a very, very long time ago.
The girlies say that this is the book / series that kind of grimdark. Glenn Cook's The Black Company. This came out in '84.
Interesting. Does Anthony Ryan write grimdark?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was in my head. I'm just thinking like manly fantasy, like what's going on.
But every grimdark list also has Assassin's Apprentice because you read it, so you know it's so depressing and just bad, no good, bad, just bad, bad, bad all the time.
I would never consider that grimdark though because it's so underpinned by like love and hope,
emotion.
And, yeah.
Well, where does hope get him?
I think
you
I'm just
should
grim.
invite it
I'm
out.
after him. It's too soon.
Yeah, it is.
Well, too soon.
We're all still mourning stuff.
Not really. He's like resting and howling. So he's
I
having a
also have
barking
I've
time.
got women on my TBR, so we're gonna see if the ladies are representing.
People in the chat, let us know if there's any specific things about this book that you would like us to talk about.
Can we,
and does
can we talk
anybody-
about like some of the most shocking moments? Because I was actually so surprised by how many times in the book I was like shocked. Because it's like it's one thing you kind of know. He like when you read his forward, he's talking about how he wanted to change some of the tropes, how he wanted to play on things. He was like inspired by George R. R. Martin.
I'm gonna say I didn't have a forward in mine.
Yeah, mine just
Those
starts-
are the anniversary editions.
Yeah.
I think it's because this one's the anniversary edition or something like that. It has like this bit in the beginning where he's just kind of like talking. It's an introduction, and he's just talking about like how surprised he was at the book's reception and how he thought about fantasy and he wanted to make his own place in it. Clearly, he has. But the thing that kind of struck me was, oh my god, what struck me?
Oh my god, because he's the king's son.
Oh, 100%.
Just now
Why
becomes
that's
someone
relevant.
very important later on. I know
They
some
made
of
it
this.
very
I
obvious.
feel like he's the king's son. I don't know why, but his dad knows Baez, and the king recognized him. And I thought it was supposed to be like, oh, look how weird the king is, and I'm like, no, he's the king's son.
Ooh.
But is
That
he a
one
bastard
went-
son? Is he actually
I'm
was
gonna
he
say
swapped,
nothing.
or is he like a bastard son?
I think he was a son that was like he's trying to keep him safe from the royal family, so he put him to the like in another family's care. If that makes sense. But what? No, I can't remember my point. I'm gonna let you guys carry on. Let me think.
You were talking about how things shocked you. Like you were
Oh right, okay. The thing that so he was talking about subverting tropes, etc. He was so inspired by George R. R. Martin, blah blah blah. So I was like, oh my god, I love West. West is the best character. Blah 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 blah. And then
Yeah.
Yeah.
he gets angry, and it's like, okay, cool. We saw he can get a bit angry. He can get a bit nasty, whatever. And then he does what he did, and it was. I'm gonna sound like devil's advocate, but this is fiction. I was like, okay, if he slapped her, I would have been like, you're a fucking prick. But it was just a slap. But my guy,
like a brother slapping your sister.
yeah, like, but he punched her, and then he fucking rammed her head over and over again. And I'm like, motherfucker, this is not normal.
I thought something was actually wrong with him because he kept complaining about having a headache until she pointed out that the dad did it all the time.
Yeah. Is it maybe the same thing that's, makes Logan go berserk? Is it contagious?
But I also
No,
think
because
it's
he
like
dies in
shitty men.
Civil
I
War.
think it's. I think in West's case specifically, it's meant to be like he's such an everyone's person, but he's actually also got his own issues. And yeah, sure, we can chalk it up to trauma, but he's actually just really fucked up. Versus you've got Logan, who has done really fucked up things, suspected cannibal, potentially talking to the other side,
Suspected cannibal,
whatever.
suspected by you.
But he's still also very lovely. Like he could have just left that little apprentice dude. He was like, "No, you're coming with me." He came to Pharaoh's rescue. All this stuff. He cares about putting himself on the line for other people, and he's so nice. And yet he's like generally a violent person, but not like to people in a bad way. So it's just kind of like I think it was trying to show that juxtaposition. Maybe
I'm interested to see the development of the rest of his character because there is a lot to say generally about cycles of abuse and how, while it is absolutely his fault, it's something that is commonly recurring within people who've grown up in that background. So is it like obviously it's his fault, but is it his fault? You know, because he doesn't seem to be that kind of person generally. But then a lot
like
of
a
people
nature
aren't.
versus nurture thing, and the nurture environment totally messed you up.
Yeah. Plus, he was under a lot of pressure, and like because of he was like the only one taking the war seriously as well. Like he was like the only person to care about it. Yeah.
I do want a West redemption. Like I hope we can get one. But that just made me think Ardy was the baddest bitch on the planet when she spat her blood back at him.
Yeah.
I was like, oh,
absolutely.
Oh, more of that.
He might redeem himself in some ways, but in the end of the day, he still
did it.
It's like I guess it's the part of morality, you know. We like some pretty shitty characters sometimes, but
that's a level of shitty though that we don't typically.
Oh no, I don't fuck with that either. I'm just saying generally, but like I just want Ardy and Logan to end up together because I personally really like them. I think she has really good chemistry with him.
I don't think anyone.
Okay, but like, let me have this. I
think that she might have her own agenda and that she's not here to be friends with everyone. I think, or considering where she's come from and the fact that her brother is trying to make a name for himself despite being a commoner and like the prejudice that he faces, she could be willing to do whatever it takes to claw her way to the top, in which case she doesn't give a shit about anyone. And she's
oh my
just
god, maybe that's why she wants to fuck Giselle. Maybe she knows he's the prince. Or when she'll
I remembered another thing that supports him being the prince. He mentioned at some point that all his brothers are jealous of him because they're ugly and he's not. Which was just like an offhand comment, but then thinking about it, I was like, well, because he's like, they just wish they had my jaw. And I'm like, well, maybe that's because their daddy's not your dad. So you have your
dad
jaw.
had a weak chin as well, apparently.
So that makes me think of like the connection to violence between many of our main characters. Then if we're thinking West was just like your everyday guy until he betrayed us all and took his aggression out on his sister, but then you have Glokta and his form of violence, which we're like, Stan, yes, we love Glokta, and then there's Logan, which we also love his form of violence. So it's like super interesting that there's like severe violence going on between our characters and them actually perpetrating violence on others, but we have way different reactions to what West did versus
I think it's like
Glokta
on who it's against as well. I mean, obviously Glokta is a very specific case where he's quite literally tortured in prison, but everyone else, like when Logan does it, he typically does it against people who are either started it or they at least have a thing of defense, whereas West turning on his sister, very different power dynamic there.
Was I the only one that was not surprised by West assaulting his sister?
Because he gives bread. Like he's like Hale. Like you read him and you're like, this is bread boy. This bread boy's not going to do anything apart from be bread-like and wholesome, you know?
I was wondering what bread meant. Like, where were you going with that? But it's because he's wholesome. Bread is wholesome.
No, he's like the white bread character, you know, like they're just bread. Like they're nothing special, but they're like reliable. They're
but
just
in
bread.
his eyes, his sister is jeopardizing the one thing that he has for himself. So it makes I do not advocate for domestic abusers. I want to put that out there. But in the case of the characters in the fictional book, it seems aligned with everything else that he's done. Because he's like, you're jeopardizing my livelihood and my place in society by doing this thing that I've asked you not to do. And I've I left the family and made this life for myself, and I brought you here, and now you're putting it at risk, and you don't seem to be taking it seriously, nor do you care about how it's impacting me.
I feel like as well it was quite a clear case of him not being able to gain control over all of these multiple situations that we saw beforehand, so he did take control in the only other way he could. And it was just kind of like, I don't know, I feel like I've read a lot of the archetype where it's just like, oh, he's a nice guy, but he's not at all. So I just wasn't really too surprised, because I'm like, yeah,
he was like, but I think his juxtaposition with Giselle was that Giselle was like the classically attractive, like showy, rich, powerful one, and was the underdog. And the way those characters are set up together, it makes you believe in West, because he is the solid, reliable, good one of the two, and it's Giselle who's the shit.
It's Footboy,
So like I feel like that's why we're giving him more like Bread Boy vibes for me, where I just wasn't thinking about him because he was the safe option in comparison to Giselle.
Yeah, Joe Abercrombie was like, oh, we've got a hero character to root for. Oh, no, wait. Let's make them all unlikable. Can't have one good guy.
I think a lot of people are saying, do they support Glocta's violence? Like, do we really support it, though? I didn't care about it. I had no opinion on it. I was just like, yeah, he's a torturer. Let him do his torturing. Until he had that conversation with West. And they were like, oh, what was that other guy called? And the other guy was the guy that he tortured. And I was like...
Yeah, that was good. I like that.
They said that in the beginning. That's what that wasn't as shocking to me, just because like in the beginning, the guy was like, oh, we were in the army together, literally in the chapter where he's about to torture him. And I was like, well,
yeah, I know, but like, how many people was he in the army with?
True.
I mean, imagine thousands.
But also a part of me is kind of like, I kind of like this setting of there was a great war and we're way past it. So we have all these veterans, what happened to them, blah, 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 blah. But it's also like, vets can be shit people. And I feel Glocta's a good example, but he is also taking power in the small amount that he can get. And he's just fucking tired. I can't blame the guy.
I think because like you expect a torturer to torture people, so it's not noteworthy when he does. But
I think
the person who is the good person.
The people that he's torturing is quite interesting, because you knew that he was a torturer, but I didn't expect him to be torturing the right people, but I didn't expect him necessarily to be fully aware that the people giving him the orders are doing so for like bullshit reasons, and he's still doing it.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about like the corruption plot line.
Oh yeah. God. Yeah.
And the conspiracy to put a new head of the government in place. Because that was the whole reason why the first guy was getting tortured, because the guy was about to die and the other person was going to take control of the small circle, the closed circle. I'm mixing up the things.
Right. Yeah. Well, the woman that's going along with Glocta, y'all caught that? Did you all catch that? She was one of the masked people fighting Logan when he was berserking out.
They reminded me of like supervillains minions. The masks. And I think it was just the mention of the masks. I was imagining them like in tights and like jumper like mine with like a little cat mask on, like skulking in the shadows.
I didn't connect the masked people with the that group of people that work for the Inquisition until they said it at the practicals to the end. Like I thought this was a different group of people who have infiltrated, because it's like, why would they be fighting them?
I only kind of really, because like I said, I didn't really pay a whole ton of attention to that whole end fight scene, but I remembered that at the scene where everybody was questioning Baez and he like cuts the chair in half, the masked people were like creeping out of the shadows because they were waiting for like to catch him out, but obviously he proved them wrong. So that's like it clicked eventually. But I did that, like when they started attacking, I was like, what's going on? Why do we have all of these cat burglars in the shadows? What are they doing? I'm so confused.
Severard, someone said they love Severard. Now that we're like making comparisons, Severard and Glocta are giving me Tyrion and Bronn vibes.
See, this is better because from Severard's description, I could just imagine Filch. And it wasn't doing it for me because obviously, like, we know no, but that's better. I like that better.
I think Frost sounds hot, even though like they don't make. They're like sure he can't. He doesn't have a tongue, bless him. But I don't know. He's just so quick to kill people, and he's so efficient. And like, you know.
I thought you'd need a tongue off. I thought that would be important to you.
This person asked about Goyle and how he was forced to say that it wasn't human bites, but dogs. Like, do you have any thoughts?
That was
Goyle's a Goyle. Goyle's a motherfucking cannibal. Ain't no fucking way, because they definitely had one of the eater people come, and then the body was found. He's a cannibal.
I totally missed that.
That was just a random little mystery that was thrown in the middle where Glockter is to investigate this dead body.
All right.
And then they cover it up.
Oh, yes. Okay.
I feel like that scene showed me kind of how Glockter is just going along with whatever suits him best, because that entire thing, he was just watching him, was just like, all right, whatever. It's like, I'm not going to question it. I'm out.
I mean, Glockter also knows he's on thin ice. Like, he even said, like, it's more dangerous to continue going the way that I am, but I have no other options. Like, when he, at the end, when he's maneuvered into this superior role.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, we've had 2 superiors over the course of like 10 days. That's how long the book has been over.
I really liked the Arch Lecter as well. I thought as a character, you never really could see where he was coming from. It was nice. He kept you on your toes, which I liked.
I think that ties into Aaron's whole point as well about like the corruption, in the sense that like, see, I did take issue like with the torturing thing, because I get why he's doing what he does. He doesn't have an option otherwise, but it hurt me and my moral compass just because, as Aaron said, they are also, this place is so corrupt. The union is treating its people like shit. And I think one of the chapters, I think the name was even like the King's Justice or whatever. And it was literally showing how whether you're rich or poor, you're all treated like shit. And the way they see anyone who's like trying to come up the ranks, even not like naturally, like with their own work and stuff, they are still disrespected, like honor and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, bro, fuck your monarchy. Like, honestly, I hope you will get fucked. I hope your plans get fucked. I think that I will be so satisfied when that happens.
Thinking about it though, looking at this comment as well, I just think he doesn't care because he has nothing to live for. He's just alive because he's alive. He has no joy in his life. He can't even eat food that he wants to. He doesn't enjoy the food and never has enjoyed the food that he can eat. So like, he has no joy in his life at all. He literally does not care. He's like, this is what keeps me alive. Like, he doesn't care about morals or who's right or wrong or who's in power, because even if somebody was in power that he wanted to be, they wouldn't really improve his living conditions, because compared, like he said, the person who he was has died and all that's left is the shell of him.
Yeah, I feel like he's taking out his rage as well. That's his outlet, is, you know, making other people hurt like he hurt, you know? Again, cycle of abuse, I guess.
I feel like we were assuming Glockter was a good guy before he was tortured, which I don't necessarily believe. He's clearly a company man. He was in the military. He was Jazal. He, you know, beforehand. He was a defender. He was all these things, but that, like, I don't assume that he was a good guy. Like, he was very much aware of the conquering and all the things that they were doing against this other people. So I think for some people, it's like, oh, he's like this because he was tortured. He may not have been a good person prior to that. He's just worse now.
I would argue that he's potentially better now.
Well, it sounds like his mom. Yeah, his mom clearly did a number on him and the people, you know, surrounded him.
I feel like it's interesting to portray him as a character that was tortured and tortures, because that is like a cycle of abuse, and it's how like abuse victims like do carry on abuse into the later life, because that's how they process their own trauma. So it's interesting that that's the route that Joe Abercrombie's chosen to go, where like he enjoys to torture because he was tortured, and the way that he rejoiced about the woman's pain at the end, and the, oh my god, the perseverance with how much he hates Jazal, not because Jazal is an arrogant twat, which he is, but because he is everything that Glockter is no longer. That's why he hates him so much. It's because he was him, and that's a life that, even though he can't stand him, he wishes that that was still his life.
That's literally why, like, you tied it in perfectly, because like the quote in the beginning is like talking about how the blade itself is like the problem, And that's like the name of the book. And I'm like, girl, sis, you just hit the nail on the hammerhead. English.
The nail on the head.
Thank you.
You were there. You were there.
I will say, like, one thing, like, random little thing is that kind of linking with what you were saying about Red Rising, I love how theatrical some of it is. I mean, we quite literally have them wearing theatre clothes at one point.
Yeah.
We've got Bayaz being insulted via a play. The whole thing with him breaking the Archlector's chair instead of the table that they kept trying to get him to break, and it was just like, lol. And like little things like that, especially as well with Jezal's final fencing tournament, where like he won just by joke. There was like all this big fight, and then he just prodded him, and that was that. And I was just, I don't know, it's little details like that that really amuse me. Obviously, Bayaz as well, just strutting out bare naked and exploding someone. Nothing.
That was bad.
I think this is, you don't have to, just because he enjoys what he's doing doesn't mean that he thinks what he's doing is right. Because especially if we talk about cycles of abuse and stuff, it's possible that he enjoys what he does, but he doesn't want to. He doesn't want to be somebody who enjoys hurting other people. He just does because of what was done to him. So he still has the ability to cast judgment on other people who enjoy torturing. And also he'll have his own moral code that excuses his own behavior. That's like, well, I enjoy torturing people, but I only do it because of this. And he's doing it because of this. And that's not right.
I don't
Which
think
will...
Tolkien enjoys it.
You don't think he enjoys it?
He doesn't seem to enjoy it. It's what I had to do. Like, it's par for the course.
He also knows a lot about it, so it could just be like that he is very knowledgeable about it, which is why he does it. We never found out how he ended up in his position, because everything else he does in this book he's made to do. So potentially he was made to torture.
They said he like walked up to the doors of the Inquisition and said like, I'm gonna be because he came from England. Like after he got back from the war, he went to the other war front or whatever, and then he came back to the, like, I think they said like 2 years ago, to the doors of the, what's the name? Like, yeah, I'm gonna do this now.
He's good at it more than he enjoys it.
I was thinking that. I was like, Glotzer is also just a cocky little shit. Like his entire narration is just, I know more than everybody else.
And it's kind of funny because it just shows how ignorant he is, especially in the chapter where he's like, "You're not the first Magi, I'll prove it." And then Bayaz is like, "I don't give a fuck." And then later, you know, which does tie into something that Ashley just brought up, because you mentioned Bayaz being a badass Magi. What does anyone have theories about the whole Bayaz helping Jezal and them kind of knowing each other thing?
Well, he knows his dad. Because it said like he saw Bayaz, his dad. Jezal won the competition. He saw his dad. His dad clocked Bayaz and was like shook, and then Jezal got taken away.
Yeah.
So like it's something to do with that, and I think that it's also something to do with, I guess, him being the king, the son of the king, assumedly.
I'm gonna be so upset if he does wind up being king. He's just so whiny, and maybe it'll be like a Malta character arc where I just sing his praises at the end. But I'm like, why we gotta give it to the spoiled kid?
I don't dislike him because I just see Adolin in him, who is my favorite Stormlight character. So I'm just like, because as long as his character like improves from here, which I'm guessing it must if he's a main character, then I'm good with him. Because like Adolin's the worst in Way of Kings as well, but then he's the best. You can see Aaron throwing in at me.
I feel like Jezal's worse than Adolin ever was, though. To be fair, you didn't get his POV till later in the series. You were just seeing how he was being perceived by Kaladin.
Exactly, so, he was horrible to Kaladin.
Yeah, but like, you know, Kaladin was prejudiced anyway because of the Light Eyes thing to begin with. But Jezal is just straight up arrogant from the off.
I'm surprised that so many people just straight up hate him. I just didn't have an opinion on him, really.
I actually thought he was quite funny because he's a caricature of being a pompous twat.
Yeah, this is true.
So like he rolls his eyes and huffs about everything, and I'm like, well, like right at the end where he's like he draws his sword and he's like, oh, the Inquisition can have them. I don't want them to think that I've got anything to do with this. I don't want to be here, and I'm like, I like him.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's funny that his only motivation was to prove people wrong as well. Like it wasn't until someone said, "You can't fucking do this." Like it was like, "Okay, I'm gonna do this."
Let alone a woman. Oh my god.
Right, and then his obsession with Artie.
Someone,
I think maybe that's why I was like, "Oh boy, stop."
Someone asked earlier, do we think that Baez made him win the competition for the bet, or was there another reason?
He needed him to win a competition so that he could be in the position to do what he needs him to do later.
Yeah.
Because if he hadn't won a competition, he wouldn't have been accompanying him. He wouldn't have been able to go.
Because they made out that because it's such a prestigious job to go with him that, like, yeah, okay, that's fair.
I want to know more about the guy that he beat. I want that guy
Oh
to come
yeah,
back.
because he throwing it back to I guess he was also quite mountain-like Game of Thrones, but also Throne of Glass, like the plot of the first Throne of Glass book, with the like brute in the tournament ring. The plot of the first Throne of Glass book is that she's competing to be the king's assassin, and it's the competition to be the king's assassin, which has like a big showdown at the end. But yeah, I'm wondering about that guy because, like, is it, as Glockter said, it's just a new style of fencing, or was there something going on with him?
Heavier swords, mate. He was just built bigger.
Not being funny, I think the one little bit of him cheering on Giselle and like putting him on his shoulders, being like, "You won!" was just like, the only bit of nicety within this entire book.
It was big Kimbo energy.
And I was just like, I don't know who this guy is, but he's my favorite.
Who is everyone's favorite characters? I'm curious.
I don't know. I really don't know.
Did you give it 4 or 5, Ashley?
4.
Yeah. I don't know if my favorite is Baez or Logan. Logan's definitely my favorite perspective. Baez may be my favorite character overall.
My favorite character is Logan. My favorite character to read their perspective, though, is Glockter.
Yeah, that's me. Never had a bad Glockter chapter.
I always
also feel
love
like
Saki knowledgeable ones, so
I feel like Glockter is actually like the primary character. Like he's the main person that we follow because I feel like he's had the most chapters.
He also just knows what's going on with other people, at least to some extent, whereas that's not the same vice versa. Like, they ain't got a bloody clue what's going on with Glockter, so...
I'm interested in Glockter because whenever I mention the First Law, everyone just talks about how much they love Glockter. And while I like him, I don't have that overwhelming love for him. So I'm wondering if that comes in later in the series.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely intrigued about that because I'm like, yeah, he's a cool character. I enjoyed following him, but like, I'm not obsessed with him or anything.
Yeah. I think my favorite might be Baez.
He's fun.
He's great.
Just little dramatic ass. I have to respect it.
He's giving us the Gandalf, but he's a smith and he's got muscle. Like, daddy. It's just like that archetype never fails, and that's why I'm like, if you kill him, and I feel like he's going to kill him because why would they make him so likable and then keep him alive?
Yeah.
Like, well, he's not going to do that. He's going to make us suffer. So I'm not emotionally prepared for that. But
yeah, but he's like granddaddy though, right? Because he's like centuries old, so you know he has done some shit, like bad shit in the past as well.
That means he knows what to do.
And he's still got his tongue.
Also, I love the fact that he was like multiple people within.
That was fun.
Is it? And they were just like, you can't claim to be all of them, and it's just like.
I mean, it is a bit of audacity for him to come in and be like, "Don't you know who I am?" when he's used 4 different names. I'm like, that's probably why they don't know who you are, because you weren't.
The way that the reason as well was just like, oh, they are all bald.
Yeah, look, we got a statue of me out front. Like, for real.
I'm just like, the only reason you think to even vaguely believe is because they're all bald. I'm like, come on, guy got to get a wig at some point, surely.
Oh, someone earlier was talking about, okay, how did no one think that Giselle cheated except for Glocta. Like,
Mm.
how was everybody like that convinced that he just swept the floor in
I mean,
that
everybody
fencing
wanted
ring?
him to win, so it's the thing of like you only see what you want to see.
Even he didn't realize.
Yeah.
But he felt like a fraud at the party for him because he
Mm.
was like, it really didn't seem like I was beating him. I just happened to beat him.
Mhm. I
He
think the
is. He is. Like, he is.
That's why I like him.
the king though also like voted for the other guy, so I'm kind of like, I feel like maybe a lot of people thought he wouldn't do too well, which is also confusing. But Glocta was also looking at Baez, like in that bit where he was actually not even looking at the fight, he just carried on looking at Baez afterwards, and that's how he probably clocked it.
Yeah.
You know, that also, so speaking of like Baez betting on Giselle, like it and corruption, follow me here. I'm surprised that there isn't like a storyline where someone else bet on Giselle, because for you to go into a fight that much the underdog skill wise, like whoever is putting their money on you is going to win so much money. So I'm surprised like we don't have something like that. That would be an interesting, like, throw that in there. Like maybe someone wanted someone to throw the fight to win money.
It's interesting that the stakes were so high on Giselle, though, because even though everybody, like, he went in with the lower skill level and wasn't expected to win, he's the one everybody wanted to win. It's like how with football, people bet on their team, even though, like, statistically, their team is probably not going to win, but they can't not bet on them.
I think it's just
I
because
feel
he's hot.
personally attacked by that.
They want a redo of
And the other
Same
guys-
Day Glocta.
You also had one of the princes constantly going, "You're my man," so they also had like the royal endorsement
Mm.
going on.
He didn't cheat, but he didn't win.
Yeah.
Baez cheated,
Mm.
Mhm.
and he knew he didn't win. Like he was getting the floor. He was getting scrubbed
Mm-hmm.
real bad.
The way that he's not putting two and two together though, when that just happened, he had this miraculous like vanishing of pain, and then he's like, "Why does this magi want to talk to me?" And I'm like,
He's not the smartest, is he? He's not the.
It's
Yeah.
not that he's not the smartest, it's that he's so entitled that when things go his way, he doesn't think it's suspicious.
True.
But is he that entitled though? Because his inner monologue isn't on the shit. It's like, damn, I can't let my dad be wrong, or everybody proves right about me. This is the only way I'm gonna get some greatness.
Mhm.
Is anyone getting like Prince Charming and the fairy godmother vibes from like Baez and
Oh my
just
God.
because that's what I'm imagining right now. It's like, "Mommy," and then Baez is like, "It's okay there. Did you hear what I said?" I don't know. I feel like that's the dynamic that's happening.
He's just a bit dumb. He is.
"Yeah."
He's kind of a himbo, and I hate it because I don't want to like him. 'Cause
I
he's
love
so-
him, though.
He's so sexist, though. Oh,
No, you're going to say sexy.
Becca was like, yeah, I feel you.
There's all gives a vibes that he doesn't go down on women. Like he thinks it's beneath him.
Well, not yet. Give him
No, but I
some
don't think he
time.
ever would.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That-
He
yeah.
gives that vibe. Versus like Logan, he's gonna.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Logan's also probably gonna be smelly.
He'd be okay with it though. Like if you went to the gym, you're a bit sweaty. He doesn't care.
The
I mean, the
a
gym.
bit sweaty is different than war campaign. Haven't washed.
Valid.
He doesn't drink the respecting women juice, so he's not a himbo. He's just pretty and dumb.
He is Prince
Honestly,
Charming from
I
Shrek.
like men pretty and dumb. Just be cute and silent.
He's not silent though.
Let me
That's
do the talking.
That's true. He does talk too much. Do we have any thoughts about the navigator? Because I think he is a bit sus. Well, I also love him. So,
if I was, he's nowhere near the same level, but Brother Longfoot is giving me full vibes where he's just prancing around being like, "I know everything, la la la."
I'm like full or wit vibes
Yeah.
coming in a little bit. Knows more than he's letting on.
Yeah, it's just like, "I know everything, I've been everywhere. Come with me. Don't question why I know things."
I don't get the wit from him, but that character to be thrown in like third act was just kind of odd too.
Mm-hmm. Just something.
Look, it's just the parallel between him and Logan that I loved. But he does give kind of like, I feel like he could be a very minor villain. Like I feel like he could be a villain's minion. Or like part of like, because he's religious. So he could be like some sort of like not sinister cult, but like you find out that what he believes in is not actually like what we should be believing in here. But then you think Baez would know.
I think he's stupid, even though he's like been all these places. So I don't see him being smart enough to pull off some type of evil mastermind plot line.
That's why I feel like he would just be a minion.
Without his knowledge. I don't think he's in on it at all.
I like that his like special skill is hiding. That would be me in this world.
The way that it's always the thing of anybody who claims they know everything knows absolutely nothing.
Yeah.
Like, the more you learn, the more you realize that you don't know. And he's just like, I know everything. Oh, actually, I'm gonna go hide. I can't fight. I'm just gonna go prance down this alleyway and hope for the best and jiggle my toes around.
If he's a minion, he doesn't know about it.
He has absolutely zero street smarts.
The way that he just but the thing is, he's traveled the world. How is he alive?
No.
By hiding when the stabby stab happens.
Hiding when he pulls out all his money in the street.
That just
unless he is an evil mastermind and did that on purpose to see what Logan was about.
Because then that doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense that he's traveled the entire world and he's stupid enough to pull out a massive bag of money in a rough part of the city.
But wait, that Cass makes a good point. Like, what if he did that either to see his metal or to make Logan think and like them all be disarmed? Like, oh, he's like a fucking idiot. But he's apparently so knowledgeable. What a dumbass. He must be a fraud. But actually, he's really, really fucking smart. And like, now they all have this undermined opinion of him. He can actually like fuck around with their perspective.
If you read Malazan, he reminds me of Krupe so much. Because it's Malazan.
Oh, okay.
I haven't started yet because I'm intimidated.
Yeah, everybody tells me.
It's Aaron's new obsession.
Yes. Then.
Like, these other books can't even compare.
Oh, okay.
I cried in book 2.
Okay,
then you sent me a screenshot and I couldn't even read it. I just like, this isn't English. So
it's a little big brain, but it's just that you got to take your time. And like, I read book 1 over 11 days. Me.
Okay.
I read like 2 chapters a day. That was as much as I could do.
Oh, okay.
But boy,
damn.
I feel like we can't get attached to any of these characters too much if they aren't already immediately a bad person on the page, like Glocta or Logan. Because
let's see what book 2 is about.
Somebody asked. Wait, I forgot. Oh, is it going to be like Game of Thrones? Do we think it's going to be like Game of Thrones where like perspective characters are killed?
He said that Game of Thrones was one of his main inspirations. So,
and it is blurred by George R. R. Martin.
Oh well, there you go.
Yeah.
Oh,
George R. R. Martin said Joe Abercrombie is terrific. Maybe if he spent more time writing Winds of Winter and less time reading The Blade itself, we would all be better off.
It would be done. No, I need him storyboarding. What is the 7th book called? Something about spring.
A Dream of Spring.
Yeah, I need him
storyboarding at this point because we're never going to get that book.
Yeah, I need him to storyboard that and get going on that. You're thinking 2 steps ahead, dude.
Who do you think is most likely to die? I think West could go.
Oh, 100%.
The Apprentice.
It would make sense to like rip my heart out and have Logan die.
I don't know when, but Baez.
Oh yeah, definitely.
But would he be like a true death or would he be like a Gandalf death?
No, I think he's gone.
At least a few of these characters have to survive because I believe it's a generational series. So the characters that we follow in the next trilogy are somehow related to the characters that we follow here.
So then Artie is hooking up with somebody.
Yeah, I was going to say, are they going to fridge Artie, do you think, as like motivation for the men?
Well, Bayers have been kicking around for centuries, so we can go.
But if
I
Hardy
mean, Logan is
dies,
the
then
only
how are
one
we going to have a
confirmed we know
generational
had
fantasy?
kids.
She's the only woman.
Yeah, she's the only woman, so.
So Pharaoh, Logan, and Jazal are my 3 who are probably going to stay alive. Glockter's going to die at some point, and we'll feel really bad for him. But like, I think it's going to be like in the final book of the trilogy, and we're going to be like, he'd have redeemed himself to a point where we're going to be like, by Belias, whatever the fuck, is definitely gonna be the first to die. Love you, wizard, but you're dead. And West, he signed his death warrant the second he laid a knuckle on his sister.
Or it could be Baez dies in the next one and then gets resurrected, a la Gandalf for the 3rd.
Mm.
We did kind of come to the conclusion that Jazal is relevant because he's the son of the king, but that doesn't explain why Baez needs him on his mission.
Yeah.
Unless it's for credit.
I need to
he
hit up that
needs, like,
Reddit
people
thread.
that will witness the events.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe he's the one that lives.
But also, if they go to a specific country and they're like, "Oh, we have royalty from our lands," then they'll be like, "Oh, it's royalty." You know what I mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Or it's
To
needed
them,
to.
the other lands are savages, so that doesn't. To them, they don't care like their opinion because they're not civilized.
Unless there's some type of like magic that can only be lifted by like a certain type of blood, and it has to be royal blood or something or whatever.
Which could explain why Baez and Jazal's father know each other. If it was Baez that took him and put him in a different family for safekeeping for when he needed him, the king could be broken because of the loss of his son, because all he knows is that the son that he has is not his son.
Yeah.
He keeps asking for when his son's going to come back.
Yeah. And that's his son, so he immediately recognizes his son. But that's the thing that could have broken him mentally, and it was just so that Baez could have him at a later date.
Oh, maybe he's being abducted and he doesn't realize.
I think they're all
Baez
being
is such a
abducted.
manipulator.
That's true. That's true. We have the Northmen coming in, and they're already like in England.
Oh, the Union's gonna get fucked. So
I'm fine with that.
Maybe there's just some chance of Jazal also having some kind of magic, and that's like being suspected as a bloodline thing, so they needed him out of the way. Because there's got to be some reason why he was taken away from the king early on.
Y'all are convinced that he is the king's son. Like, y'all have decided that's the truth.
I know. The whole thing is like, oh, the king's crazy. And we're like, this crazy man said that he is his son. So he is his son.
How often, though, have we read things where the crazy person is literally just being crazy?
Well, the crazy person in here who's called the crazy man isn't crazy. He's like, I'm waiting for my master, and then his master turns up.
The crazy people are never crazy.
Same.
wait. Who's read this series already?
I spoil myself for every series that I read, almost.
Okay, so Aaron spoiled herself. Can't blame you.
You did?
It wasn't intentional, but I bought the rest of the books, and I like a dumbass read the synopsis for all of them.
Oh no!
I was like, oh, okay.
I've learned from Hope not to do that.
Yeah.
I used to have to tape pieces of paper over the backs of my books to stop me from doing that. Because I'm really bad at it. I also have a knack for, do you know when you're looking how long the book is? I have a knack for reading the last line only if it's important. If it's not important, I won't spoil myself. If it's a massive plot twist on the last line, then I am guaranteed to accidentally read it.
I did that with Harry Potter when Lord Voldemort returned. It was like my eye immediately went to that line. I was like, I have to finish this chapter.
I did it with House of Skyrim Breath.
Oh.
I did it with nobody even cares, but King of Scars. There's a big thing that happens right at the very end of that book.
I gave up on that book. I tried.
Yeah, do I want to even like? Okay, all right.
It's sad because like Nikolai's the best character, and I had such high hopes for that, but it's the worst. I've given all of her books in the Grishaverse 4 or 5 stars until King of Scars, which got 3, and that's only because Nikolai's in it. He made it 3 stars.
Did you not like the sequel?
I haven't read it yet because it's the only Grishaverse book I haven't read because I just have very little motivation.
I think that's a lot of people. That's why I thought about starting on King of Scars. I had it like queued up in my Audible, and then I went in another direction. So I just like never got back to it.
I mean, I will.
I've read Crown of Scars. It's Rule of Wolves I haven't read, but yeah, I agree with you, Becca. God, such
And then the end is like, why though?
Exactly.
And that's what I spoiled myself for.
Oh,
I was just
that's a
splitting it
big
down into
spoiler.
pages because everybody read it with Jade, and I was like, oh.
big spoiler, yeah.
To be fair, I don't really care about spoilers, so I've done what Aaron does before and just looked.
Because a lot of time, like, if without the context, the spoiler doesn't even have the same impact. So it's like, oh, okay, this character
The
died.
reason
Cool.
why
I do that
we,
with TV shows that I'm like way behind on.
I definitely like sometimes when you want to look at character art and you just Google the character's name and then like fucking idiot you accidentally it happened to me with what's that fucking series? The second book in The Cool Prince, like when the sister kills the dude, and I was like, oh, okay, damn. I accidentally read the last lines of A Court of Mist and Fury because I'm a fucking idiot. And then what's the other thing? Oh, A Curse So Dark and Lonely. There's a twist in that series, and I was really loving the first book. And then I, like an idiot, decided to read the blurb of the next few books, and I spoiled something massive for myself. And I'm like,
Didn't you do it with character art for one of the Hob series as well? You were just like, yeah, I was trying to find out what this person looked like, and now I know this.
100%. I did it so many times with Hob, and I was just like, fuck.
Oh, I did it with, because I was reading the ebook of one of the Live Ship Traders books, and I got to the end, and it was advertised in the beginning of the second Fitz trilogy. Oh no, it was the last book. It was Assassin's Quest. At the end of the ebook for Assassin's Quest, it has the synopsis for, or it might have been the second Fitz book. It has the synopsis for the first book in the third Fitz trilogy. Yeah, it's the third Fitz trilogy. And I read that at the end of Assassin's Quest, and it's like, this person is living with this person over here.
Yeah,
And it's like,
yeah.
oh.
Sometimes like my anxiety would get the best of me. Like I was reading Ship of Magic, and I was getting so frustrated. I was like, does Kyle die at the end?
The only reason why
I need to know what's going to happen.
the only reason we invited Aaron to join us is because she was at the live show anyway, even having not read the book. So it was necessary. This is a good question, actually. I don't know what the seed is.
I think it's a person. I think it's a person.
I think they quite literally mean it as like
seed.
Yeah, I think
It
from a
could be the
man
seed of
and a woman
genius.
called an orifice.
So there's an embryo.
Oh, so that's like another George R.R. Martin thing. The seed is strong.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh wait, is it Giselle then? Because he's like the king.
black of hair, blonde of hair.
The seed has black hair.
To me, I don't know if I read this entirely wrong, but it sounded like they were going to breed Pharaoh with somebody else who has magic, Logan, to make a stronger person to beat the Eaters. But I don't know.
Gross. I hope it doesn't go down that road.
I hate the word breed.
Yeah,
That's what it is.
that gives me Throne of Glass.
Not good
That
word.
gives- yeah.
It's just because like they were quite literally saying this person has these characteristics, this person has these characteristics, and then they started talking about the seed, and I was like,
I would love just to subvert every trope, and Ardy ends up if anyone ends up with Ardy ends up with Logan, and Pharaoh ends up with Giselle. I think that would be the most confusing, counterintuitive. What the fuck is going on? Because it subverts everything we think about when we know and what we know of him. I don't know. I'd love that. I
just wonder why y'all think all these couples are gonna happen in this grim, dark ass series.
Yeah.
Why think people gonna be alive to end up together?
Well, the last time we read a series and didn't know there was going to be a couple, look what we ended up with.
Everyone was paired off.
Mm-hmm.
oh, see, it's not just me thinking they're going to breed Pharaoh for whatever reason.
I'm
like,
reading
I just
the bit,
I
like,
can't get
God,
behind
God
Ardy
is
and
vested
Giselle.
in the box. The seed of this power, great power. It doesn't have to be a fetus or some semen.
Probably is.
It's like it's something to do with the daughter of the maker that had to die, and then maybe like she didn't actually die, and then she continues to have kids, and then the person is like the seed is the offspring of the maker or whatever.
It says the Magi searched high and low for the seed but couldn't find it. And then they go on and read a bit more, and it says, he broke on the bridge. They searched for the seed. They sealed up the house of the maker. They buried the fallen, Canedius and his daughter among them. That's all.
But they,
So
they
it
also
doesn't
asked
say-
Locta if he knew where the seed was, and then they were like, "Oh, like one of the eaters or whatever." And then they were like, "Oh, he didn't know," so they fucked off, right? But part of me can't like. Do you think it's like this is gonna sound so stupid? There's a book series called Married to Magic, and in the first book,
Come
I
on.
deal with listen. I swear it'll make sense. I deal with an elf king. TLDR. Basically, there's a seed that can like connect the magical world and the human world. And so I'm like, is that what the seed is? And that's where the eaters want it. So then they can like have power over the normal world.
I could get into that, but I've read A Deal with the Elf King, so I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, me too. But it wasn't
But you-
very good, which is why I don't believe it.
It's not
It's-
good.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying that plot point just makes me think like, oh, finding a way to connect both the worlds.
Could it be a question that I had actually? How many do we think that all of the brothers of is it Ooze, like Canedius, and he has 2 brothers at least, and they're all dead. They killed each other. Do we think there's any more of them? And also, could the seed be to do with them, like as a unit, not just the maker specifically?
Or the seed could be what made them. The source, the one power. Let's take it to Wheel of Time. And that's why
Yeah.
Giselle has to go, because he's Taverin.
The daughter could be the seed. Oh no, because they mentioned the seed specific. The daughter is mentioned in the scroll, and so is the seed. So, and in the scroll it says that they buried the daughter,
Yeah, but she could have had a kid, and that's the seed, possibly.
which would be why the Magi was looking for the kid, because it would be his.
Yeah, that's my thought.
Also, in the
This-
prophecy or in the scroll, like those 2 things could have been used interchangeably.
Mm.
But because we're removed from the goings on of that time, we think that these things could be separate.
Possibly. There has to be a baby bastard in that family somewhere. Yeah.
There is also potential that it could be the so each of the brothers, when they die, could release their power as something, and the power that is released from the essence of the maker is the seed, which is why buyers would be looking for it, because he would be wanting to stop the maker from returning, and why he's so desperate to find it, and why other people want it so much, because if Canedius is the master maker, having the seed or the power would allow you to be able to create anything.
Ingrid, you've got your thinking cap on.
Oh, tea.
She doesn't feel pain as well.
Yeah.
Very no thoughts, head empty as well.
If Logan and Pharaoh are related, I think they would have to be distantly related, because he's very, very white and I think she's black.
Yeah. The
He's
bit where
like-
she was like, "Are you pink?" though was funny.
Yeah.
Well, I guess so. Yeah.
So you
But
can't
also,
see colour when
like-
she's in pink.
Am I wrong?
I actually got initially very confused because I thought like maybe that's just me. The way they were describing Adwa and all the like generals and stuff like that, and they all had beards, and this is so dumb. But I basically was like, oh, it's sunny. They all have beards, and the architecture's white. It feels like it's like an Arabic country. I don't know. And then he carried on saying bloody. He was like, oh, bloody soldiers, bloody. But to me, I carried on hearing it with an accent like bloody soldiers, bloody. And I was like, and then. So when I was like looking at character art and everyone was showing Giselle and the rest of them as white, I was like, wait, hold on, what? This doesn't fit my narrative. And I was like, oh, okay, so basically everyone's white and then we've got 2 black POC. Cool, that's fine. It's fine. It's cool.
Yeah, whatever the seed ends up being, everyone will be disappointed. Absolutely. This is true. The cold thing is definitely a thing. Like the cold lady is definitely a thing. Potentially, no. I was going to say potentially tied to the other sorceress, which is Bethod's sorceress. Oh, also, that whole thing with them is giving King Beyond the Wall vibes.
Yeah.
rather than
Yes.
Army.
Yes, totally.
Mhm.
Answer Raider.
But you also compared the sorceress to
Melisandre.
yeah. So I automatically that made me because I had the same thought when I was reading it. That made Bethard be the brother to me.
Stannis.
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah. Stannis vibes. Yeah.
When she gave birth to that demon, oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh.
Maybe she'll give birth too.
This implies potentially that the seed could be power if Pharaoh needs to carry it, because she doesn't feel pain from the eaters who are magical or like are tainted by something. And also she can't see color. Maybe it's very, I was gonna say very bright, but she would still see brightness.
I assumed that the box was to put the seed in because he said there's nothing in it yet, but it weighs a ton. It's to keep people out.
But then Logan's the only person who can carry it,
Who
not
can
her.
carry
But that
it?
also
Yeah,
means we believe him. Do we believe him?
that's true. Do we?
Oh, but he's
Because
such
you
a
locked
nice
a very empty box into a castle where only one person alive can open it, but you want to believe that nothing is in it.
If we think about what the foreword says and how Joe Abercrombie wants to subvert tropes, that would make Baez bad. Because he's Merlin, he's Gandalf, and he's Dumbledore. We're supposed to trust him. So potentially that would make him bad.
I think everyone's going to be bad in the series. I don't think it's going to be really any characters that we're going to be.
And then,
told.
like, if we do take it then to Dumbledore, Dumbledore is not he's good on the scale of good and evil, but he's not necessarily a great person.
Mhm.
Oh yeah, he's a prick.
I think good is relative, but I also pose the question is like, you know, when we were trying to figure out who Baez was, he specified that I was this person in this age and this person and this person. It's like, well, what is different about this current situation that you're yourself rather than presenting yourself as someone else?
Yeah.
I think it's time, whatever that means. Like, whatever is going to happen, it is no time for it to happen. So it's time for him to come out of hiding as himself. And like the thing that he's been hiding and waiting for is happening now, which is why.
Was he hiding? Because he was helping this one man conquer the,
Well,
get
yeah,
all the tribes together.
The Union have no idea what happens north of England. Literally not a fucking clue. They don't know that are they Shankar? They don't think they exist.
Yeah.
Whereas like Logan sees them every day.
I have two thoughts. One thought is that regarding the whole, like, the Karen's saying that they're going to the edge of the world or whatever the fuck. Do you think the edge of the world is then what takes them to the other side of the veil? Because that's what I'm imagining. Because what if the edge of the world isn't actually the edge of the like circle of the world in the geographic map? What if it's that?
Maybe it flips. Maybe if they go to the edge of the world, they literally flip right under it, and that's the other side.
Yeah. And then the other thing I'm thinking is they're saying that, like, as you guys have discussed, like, Pharaoh can't be hurt by these things. And then Logan is clearly very, very strong. And then he has a form of himself, which is like some innate invincible. A part of me has to wonder that, are they going to be the people who would then go onto the other side of this veil? Because there's something that only the two of them could do. Meanwhile, everyone else is kind of a bit more standard.
Sorry, so they go to Australia.
They go down under. Yes.
The first law is that you can't talk to Australians.
But also Bethud, he doesn't. Okay, I know that he's a tyrant and everything, but it's like he's kind of giving Julius Caesar in the sense that, like, when we hear about things he's done, it seems like he's actually not doing like a bad thing, but like his people are kind of stupid and crappy. I don't know. But maybe it's just because I'm a Caesar apologist.
I feel like he is very heavily like he is Mance Rayder because of how influenced Joe Abercrombie is by George R.R. Martin, and just the fact of like he's united all of these tribes, and the tribes don't really want to be united, but it's in their best interest. It's very Mance Rayder.
But would George R.R. Martin like it so much if it was exactly like what he's already written?
Well, somebody told me that when authors blurb books, they read the first 50 pages and the last chapter, and that's it.
I know George doesn't read them things at all. Like Daniel Abraham was like his writing assistant at one point. He was reading them books.
Fair.
People have far too many to actually read them.
Game of Thrones.
George is reading contracts and signing checks.
Don't bother. It's not finished. At this point, I'm going to have to reread when the last book. Well, I say when the last book comes out. There's 2 more to go, so I'll be old. Sanderson will be done with Stormlight before Winds of Winter comes out.
Totally.
He'll be dead by then. He's 70 something.
Sanderson will be writing Winds of Winter.
But we said this during the other live shows. Like George literally said that if he dies, he doesn't want anyone to pick up the series, which is so incredibly selfish considering he's taking the piss.
Yeah.
I too would rather my work be incomplete than some stranger wrap it up.
I don't understand.
Like, we've had over a decade to finish one book.
But you also can't control if somebody else picks it up and finishes it.
Well, his family owns his estate own the rights.
Somebody did say earlier
The
on
states
that
be doing shady things.
his writing process is that he writes 600 pages, edits them down to 2, leaves them for a bit, goes back and edits them down to 200, and then carries on.
I've said this conspiracy theory many places. I think the ending of the show was the ending George had in mind. And once he saw the reception, he had to go back to the drawing board and think of a new ending that aligned with everything that already had been done so that it was plausible. And rewriting your own story takes a lot of time.
I don't think there's anything wrong with the end of Game of Thrones. The problem with the end of Game of Thrones is that it should have happened over 3 seasons, not 3 episodes.
Yeah, it wasn't.
So if George R.R. Martin writes it, I don't have an issue with it. It's just the way that it was delivered in the show that was a problem.
I think you're in the minority.
Because I know actually, because I'm rewatching Game of Thrones actually, and you can see the progression of that character. If you watch it knowing that that's what happens, you can see how it happens.
Do you think Sanderson would ever pick up Patrick Rothfuss? Because damn, I need that.
Well, Sanderson knows the ending to the name of the series.
Oh, that's
yeah. Patrick told him they're friends, and he told him how it would end.
Because somebody made a joke about Sanderson finishing that, and he was like, "Oh, I couldn't. Like, it's a completely different kind of series than what I write." And George has is he called? Yeah, he's called. No, what's he called? Patrick. Patrick is like, he said Patrick has a very different writing process to me, which is why it's taking him so long, and like I couldn't do it justice.
I love Sanderson, but his pen game is not at the Rothfuss level.
Yeah, true.
Prose is not even
very true. It's very true.
Small interjection regarding the Game of Thrones thing.
He only writes on one type of auto computer in his second house. If he was a dog, he'd be like an old lady dog, like a terrier that has to have very specific conditions to be content.
But also, he's been writing that series for 30, 40 years. So, like, at this point, he's like, I've been doing it the same way for a long time. So why would I change it?
So what I was going to say was like, there was actually an article interview that was posted before the final episode came out, and he said that he sat down and told the producers everything that was going to happen, all the major beats for the final 2 books, and what they did with it is what they did with it. But he said the actual ending of the show is going to be the same as what he actually wrote. Yeah. So regardless of the journey getting there being different, it's still going to be the same ending. So it's like, yeah, it's a matter of watch.
It does make sense.
Yeah, I think
the
books do a better job of. I know now we're talking about different series. The books do a better job because you actually see a bit more of a level of cruelty from her than you do in the show, because it just completely goes against the character in the show. Frankly, like you can't also say a character explicitly say, "I'm never going to do this thing," and then literally the next episode does the exact same thing.
I think the seeds for that specific character were from season 1 with the gold crown. If you know, you know. That was the brand storyline came out of left field. That was not how that was supposed to go. That was not the person who was supposed to do the thing.
So on that note, I think we're done with the blade itself.
We're on tangents.
But we will be back in May. For does anyone have the UK copy of the next book and can tell me how many pages it is, because I don't have it yet.
Mine's back there.
Okay.
You're not even going to be free a weekend in May.
Oh no, I am free one Sunday in May, in which I am in a hotel in Manchester and Ashley is at my house. So that is the one Sunday, which is the day before I fly to New York, which I think is the 14th. So if it happens on a Sunday in May, it will be the 14th, or I won't be there. It's like no, but Ashley's hosting, so whether I'm there or not is immaterial because I'm not hosting.
I will just pretend to be Becca in her house.
Yeah, if Ashley's comfortable leading the discussion, then it's fine. It's whatever Sunday Ashley wants it to be, because I will not be there.
I'll just be like, yeah, I'm not really feeling like talking to Becca today, so let's do it on this weekend instead.
Yeah.
I just wrote Elderling along in my planner. That is not what we're doing.
That is so long. That is like reflex.
Oh,
Okay, yeah, 570 pages. Okay, that's not too bad. I can do that.
mine's 441. I dock 100 pages
Nice.
having a hardback.
Oh, yours is the hardback.
Yeah. Because I was really confused because this one, everyone said it was 500, and I'm like, no, it's not.
Oh, mine's 516, yeah.
Mine's 420.
My steering wheel will not be there. I won't have this beautiful HD quality either. I'll be on my laptop.
Wait, why is there a
Whoa,
steering wheel
what's
there?
this?
It's not. It's my microphone stand. It's my pop guard thing. What's it called?
Oh, okay, cool.
It's this.
It's your
That's
spit
bad.
card.
Yeah, that thing.
I love
Um, But yeah, so that is it from us. Everyone's linked down in the description. If you want to follow these lovely, lovely ladies. I know I'm sad we lost Elder Lingalong as well.
Really rolled off the tongue.
But we will see you all in May. Bye.